नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिनामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य दिशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. We have been discussing from the third chapter of Sri Bhagavad Gita. I'll do a quick recap of what we have seen till now, and then we will take the discussion further. So, the chapter is titled as Karma Yoga. Okay. So, as I mentioned before, essentially, this chapter describes about Karma Yoga in comparison with Jnana Yoga. There is generally no discussion of Bhakti, even though Srila Prabhupada, in the first 6 chapters, even though the chapters mostly discuss about Karma Yoga, little bit of Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, but nevertheless, in all those chapters, Prabhupada does mention about Bhakti, because as we saw, in today's day and age, other than Bhakti Yoga, the other processes are almost impossible to practice. For purpose, Prabhupada speaks only about bhakti and not elaborates on, he does not elaborate on, karma yoga, jnana yoga, and ashtanga yoga, because of the lack of practical utility of those, and almost because of their, because it's not practical to practice in today's day and age, as we saw before. But nevertheless, Krishna, when he speaks to Arjuna, he's speaking about in this chapter primarily, and sometimes he compares it with Jnana Yoga to establish how far Arjuna Karma Yoga is most, uh, you know, he, that's the practice that he should practice. He's qualified for Karma Yoga, like that. So, uh, in towards the um, end of, or in the middle and towards the end of second chapter, Krishna seemed to indicate two things. Krishna seemed to indicate that Jnana Yoga is superior to Karma Yoga, but nevertheless, uh, Krishna recommended that Arjuna practice only um, Karma Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga. So Arjuna becomes very confused. So he says, if you have clear Jnana to be better than Karma, then why you are asking me to do an inferior process? Huh? So you should be, I'm willing to do what you say. So you should ask me to do a superior process. Why you are asking me to do an inferior process? Hmm. So this is what Krishna, Arjuna asks. And in response to that, Krishna says, actually, understand, O Arjuna, that there are two categories of people. Hmm. So as I mentioned, Krishna is now only talking about um, uh, one who is qualified for karma and jnana. He is not talking about bhakti, ashtanga yoga, and all those things. Okay. He says, Lokesmin vividha pura prokta mayanagar jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. Oh Arjuna, that there are, please understand that there are two categories of qualifications. Those who are qualified for karma, they follow karma yoga, and those who are qualified for jnana, they perform jnana yoga. So therefore, it is not a question of choice, but it is a question of qualification. So when I asked you to practice karma yoga or kama karma yoga, you should understand that I told this to you because of your qualification. Okay, it is not a question of, oh, everyone should do the better process. No, you should be qualified to practice the better process. Because you did not have the qualification, I asked you to do, I asked you to do karma yoga. So then he says, न कर्मणाम अनारंभान नैष्कर्म्यम पुरुषोष्णुते न च संन्यसनादेव siddhim samadhigacchati. He says that um, karmanam anarambam, without performing your nishkama karma yoga, without performing your varnashram duties, you cannot actually attain purification. So therefore, you are very eager to take up the sannyas, O Arjuna, which means you are very eager for jnana, but and that for practicing jnana you need a pure heart, and purity of heart comes only by practice of nishkama karma yoga and not by any other thing. Nacha sanyasanadeva siddhim samadhigacchati. Without purification of heart, if you just like that take up to sannyas, you cannot attain perfection. Perfection of sannyas, which is ultimately liberation, is not possible by a person whose heart is impure with material vasanas. नहि कश्चित् क्षणमपि जातु तिष्ठत्य कर्म कृत् कार्यते हि आवश्यक कर्म सर्व प्रकृतिजैर्गुणैः. Arjuna may say, I will go to the forest and not do anything. I will not do any activity. Why should I get karma? Krishna says, look, actually, not even for a moment you will be able to not do anything. The conditioned soul, as long as his heart is filled with material impressions, he cannot keep quiet even for a moment, because karyate hi avashak karma sarva prakriti jair gunaihi. The gunas of prakriti will naturally push him to act according to his nature. So when you go to the forest, you will anyway be pushed by your vasanas to act according to your nature. But in the forest, you will be acting according to your nature without the prescription of the Shastras. But what I am telling you is, act according to your nature by the prescription of Shastras. Because if you act according to your nature without the prescription of Shastras, sinful reactions. Okay. So better act according to your nature by the prescription of Shastras. That's what he says. Then he says, Karmendriyani sanyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyartan vimudatma mityachara sauchyate. So Arjuna may still argue. He may say, Krishna, you are underestimating me. You are underestimating my ability to control my senses. Actually, I senses. The so many years of Agyatavas, I could see that I have the ability to control my senses. Give me a chance. I can follow sannyas. Krishna says, what do you think, Arjuna? If you control your senses, you think that is sannyas? Arjuna says, what else? What else? I can control my senses and not engage it in any of the sense objects. This is a challenge. I can do it. I think I can practice sannyas. Now Krishna says, now let me tell you what is sannyas, O Arjuna. He says, sannyas does not mean that one does not engage his senses in sense objects, but sannyas means one does not even get a sense gratificatory desire in one's mind. So he says, a foolish person like you, Arjuna, he thinks that mere non-engagement of senses in sense objects is actually sannyas, but no, as a real sannyasi, because his heart is completely pure, does not even get a sense gratificatory desire. That is a sannyasi. And a person who thinks that, okay, I will, I may get sense gratificatory desires, but as long as I don't engage my external senses, I am a sannyasi. One who thinks like that, he's a mithyachari. He's a pretender. Pretender does not mean that he wants to cheat people. Pretender means he is just a disillusioned person. he does not even understand that he is cheating himself. And yastu indriyani manasa niyamyarabate Arjuna karmendriyahi karmayogam asaktah savishi. He says, better than that, O Arjuna, is to be a karma yoga, practicing householder is better than an unqualified Jnana Yoga practicing sannyasi. Okay. So, because that kind of sannyas will not lead to any success. At least a karma yoga practicing householder will at least achieve purification of heart, whereas an unqualified Jnana Yoga practicing sannyasi can neither purify his heart nor achieve the goal of liberation. So therefore, better be a Karma Yoga practicing a householder than a Jnana Yoga practicing sannyasi. For you. So why? Because he says, Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmajyayo hi akarmanaha. Sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhyeda karmanaha. So this is a direct instruction to Arjuna. Krishna says, Niyatam kuru karmatvam. Arjuna, I am telling you again now. Just practice your prescribed varnashram duties without attachment. Karma jyayo hi akarmanaha. For you to act according to your prescribed duties is better than not acting. Sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhyeda karmanaha. You will not even be able to maintain your body without performing your prescribed duties. So therefore, just practice your prescribed duties. Don't give it up. So then Arjuna asks that you are Arjuna, Krishna, you are asking me to practice karma, but the Shastras very clearly say that karma binds a person, actions bind a person. So won't I be bound? Krishna says no, not all actions bind a person. Yagyarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. He says, my dear Arjuna, when you perform actions for the purpose of sacrifice for the Supreme Lord, if you by offering the fruits to the Supreme Lord, that kind of an action, which is called as Nishkama Karma Yoga, does not bind one to this material world. Therefore, learn to perform that kind of an action where you perform your Nishkama Karma Yoga, your prescribed Varnashram duties, and learn to offer the fruits to the Supreme Lord. By that, you will not be bound to this material world, even though you are performing acts. So, therefore, he says in the next verse, these yagyas are actually bona fide because Brahmaji created them, he says. Sahayagya prajasrishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prashavishyadvam eshavostu ishtakamaduk. He says, when Brahmaji created the human beings, along with the human beings, he also created sacrifices, these yagyas for them. And then he said that perform these sacrifices and you will prosper by these sacrifices. All your material desires will be fulfilled by these sacrifices. So what to speak of escaping this material world? Even if one wants to enjoy in this material world, these yagyas are very critical. That's what Krishna is telling here. Even if you want to enjoy in this material world, to perform your prescribed duties through these yagyas is very critical. So he says, Devan te deva bhavayantu vaha parasparam bhavayantah shreyah param avapsyata. He says that How does the yajna yield all material desires? He says, when you perform the sacrifice for Vishnu, for the pleasure of Vishnu, along with Vishnu, the demigods also will get their shares. And because the demigods have been deputed to take care of the material welfare of this world, they will provide you with all the amenities when you perform this yajna. And this way, they will be pleased with your yajna because they will get their share, and you will get all the amenities from them. In this way, both the parties will be very happy. Ishtan bogan hi wo deva dasyante yajna bhavitah tair datta napradayebhyo yo bhungte stena eva saha. But after receiving all these amenities from the devatas, if a person enjoys all of that but does not perform sacrifice to please the demigods, or primarily to please the Lord, and also give the share of the demigods to the demigods, such a person is thief. Yo bhumte stena eva saha. He is certainly a thief. Yajnashishta shanto muchyante sarvakilbishaihi bhunjate te tvagam papa ye pachanti atmakaranat. So he says that those respectable people who eat the remnants of sacrifice. So who eat the remnants of sacrifice here is in one sense little symbolic. It means that those who enjoy bhunjate, bhunjate also refers to enjoying, even though the direct primary meaning is to eat, but secondarily it also means to enjoy. Bhunjate te tvagam papa. That person shall enjoy or experience only sin if he tries to enjoy with performing these sacrifices, which means without performing one's varnashram duties, of which these sacrifices are a critical part. If one just tries to enjoy the amenities that he receives from the from the demigods, such a person is called a thief. And then he says, Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna sambhava yagyad bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhava. So he says how the Supreme Lord is connected to all these sacrifices. He says, look, the human beings need food grains to maintain themselves. Food grains come from rain. Rain comes from performance of sacrifice. Sacrifice, what sacrifice who should perform is according to the duties prescribed according to one's varna and ashrama. And these prescribed duties are given in the Vedas. And the Vedas come from the breathing of the absolute truth. In this way, Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma Nityam Yagye Pratishtitam, he says. Karma Brahmodbhavam Vidhi Brahmakshara Samudbhavam Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma Nityam Yagye Pratishtitam. In this way, the Supreme Lord is eternally connected to the sacrifice. So therefore, one should enjoy. So humans will get food. Food comes from rain, and rain comes from sacrifice. So this should be followed. Humans should perform sacrifice. From sacrifice, rain will come. From rain, food will come, and the food can be consumed by the humans. But the humans who consume the food should perform sacrifice. So evam pravartitam chakram nanu vartayati hayah aghayur indriyamo partha sajivati. He who does not follow this cycle of sacrifice is living a life of sin, and he will just he is just enjoying his senses, but eventually he will have to suffer in hell for that. So therefore, Arjuna, I am telling you, don't neglect these sacrifices and prescribed duties which are prescribed according to your varna and ashrama. Right? So this is where we ended our discussion last week. Before we start today's discussion, Any quick discussion points, comments, questions based on what we discussed last week or summarized today? Anything anyone would like to share as add, you can please raise your hands. Anything anyone would like to share? Yes, Sachi Pranto.
Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam, Prabhuji.
And that
So what I understand from the last session and today's recap is Nishkam Karma Yoga. Krishna wanted Arjuna to perform Nishkam Karma Yoga and offering the whatever uh, service to whatever fruits he is gaining, offer it to Krishna. So
Mhm,
this as devotees, we are
mhm,
performing bhakti.
mhm.
So so which level of bhakti is considered that without sins? Like you have mentioned that we are not, the devotees may not get affected by the karma. They may get affected by karma, but not in the sense of the sins, but they will get affected in their devotional performance or their devotional progress. So
Mhm.
it is applicable to uh, all types of devotees, or because there are in devotees also there are categories of devotees. So are we
Like,
considering the application of this principle of that we are not going to get affected by the karma? Is it for everyone, or there is a level of that devotee which he will not get affected by the karma?
well, I think I did answer this question to Lokanath Prabhu last time. Actually, I need to clarify. When I say the devotees are not bound by karma, I did not mean that devotees are not responsible for their actions. I will
Mm.
answer your question also, but before that, I want to clarify this because last time also I clarified, this time I'll clarify it more
Mm.
emphatically that not that devotees are not responsible for their actions. If they perform actions which may be detriment to their progress on the path of devotional service, certainly their progress in devotional service will become affected. There is no doubt about it. So definitely their progress on the path of devotional service will be affected uh, if they perform activities which are pratikul for their progress in the path of devotional service. They will get punished, but that punishment will not come from the law of karma, but the punishment will come from Krishna. So, so therefore, one should not think just because karma does not affect devotee does not mean that devotees are not responsible for their karma. They are definitely responsible for their actions. Uh, if they perform actions which are unfavorable for their devotional service, uh, they will accumulate unfavorable material vasanas, which will make their of Krishna and practice of devotional service very difficult actually. And their progress will become slower and slower and slower. So it's not that devotees are not responsible for their actions. This is the first point I wanted to mention. Well, and the second point, answering your question, from what stage of devotional service are devotees free from the punishment given by karma and punishment given by karma or reactions of karma? So from what stage are they under the realm of Krishna? Right from the stage of Shraddha, Adav Shraddha. From that point onwards, Krishna takes over. So, so it's not that it is not only for very elevated devotees, even for beginning devotees also. So they are
Shraddha means Shraddha you mean to say is a pure faith towards Krishna consciousness?
pure faith towards Krishna consciousness. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Like sometimes some people just they join, they get attracted for prasad and they feel so exactly we don't know whether they follow the process, exact process of devotional life. But yeah, they are favorable, they come, they take prasad, but they may not be taking Krishna consciousness in the matter, like they don't have a faith on the chanting the holy name. And this kind of people also comes under the pure Shraddha.
Well, before answering this question, one thing I want to tell you is, or ask you is, they don't have faith.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Before answering that question, I would
Uh,
like to ask you, how do you know that they don't have faith in chanting?
yeah, because I sometimes I very close person who is there. He may go to take prasad and everything, but I never seen him chanting Hare
Ah,
Krishna. So that's why
so
my very
okay.
close person.
So when you see some person not chanting, it is not necessary that he has no faith in chanting. It may
Okay.
just be that he understands that I need to chant, but he is just postponing because of his material inertia.
Hmm.
So that is why if you see Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Adav Shraddha, after Shraddha, he puts Sadhu Sangha, and after Sadhu Sangha, even before Bhajana Kriya, he puts a stage which is called as Bhajaneshu Spruha. Bhajaneshu Spruha means a desire to perform bhajan, a desire to perform bhajan. So even before starting Bhajana Kriya, so there is a stage where the he has Shraddha and he has a desire to perform bhajan, but he has not started performing bhajan. So therefore, even such people may be there. So just because someone is not performing bhajan uh, does not necessarily mean that they don't have faith. It may be possible. It may be possible that they don't have faith, but you cannot tell for sure. That is the
Hmm.
point. If they
Understood,
actually don't
Prabhuji.
have faith, if they actually don't
Hmm.
have faith in the process, then
Hmm.
uh, to such a person, Krishna will not take over his case immediately. He will wait till
Hmm.
he develops that faith.
Hmm. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Lokanath Prabhu. Lokanath Prabhu, you had
Yeah,
raised. Yeah,
yeah.
yes, Prabhu.
So previously also same thing has been discussed several times.
Mhm.
So same question: is there spiritual evidence that devotees are beyond karma?
Yes, Prabhu.
Can you quote
But
those
what
things
yeah, but what kind of proof you will accept that you tell me?
from scriptures? Like we have that karmani nirdhati kintu jo bhakti bhajam, that sinful reactions are eliminated by chanting, but a
Okay.
devotee from very beginning is just not bound by karma. Are there
Okay.
any scriptural evidence that a devotee at the beginning only he gets freed from karma?
Yes, it is there, but um, uh, commentaries of acharyas, is that acceptable proof for you?
If scriptural evidence, I was expecting.
Prabhu,
Yeah,
correct. I'm asking you,
yeah.
uh, are we supposed to understand scriptures by ourselves or through the explanations of acharyas?
No, but Guru, same we have discussed previously also. Guru, Sadhu, Sat, both, all three are there. And if anything is there, not matching, then we accept Shastras. Like Prabhupada gives an example of Lord Buddha. His teaching was
Hmm.
against Shastras, so it was rejected. So
Okay.
so Shastras are, in my understanding, they are supreme. They have to be accepted.
Correct. So which
Yeah.
means, okay. No, I understand your point. I am going to quote Shastras only for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to quote Shastras only for you.
Yeah.
But the only thing is, which means if it is not very clear, and if the acharyas are explaining, which means essentially are you indicating that you don't have faith in the words of the Acharya?
No, like see, from our experience and from historical evidences, we see that if a devotee puts hand in his fire, he will burn like a non-devotee. If a devotee jumps from a building, he will get hurt like a non-devotee. That is practical experiences. And second
Prabhuji,
thing,
let me
yeah,
explain to you one thing. I'm asking
yeah,
you one very simple question.
yeah,
Is karma visible?
yeah. To an extent, we see now, like if a
No,
person has, yeah,
correct. I'm asking you,
yeah,
is when you perform an activity,
yeah,
some kind of reaction comes,
yeah.
but is it evident? Is it visible to you? Who is acting behind the scenes giving you a reaction? Is that visible to you?
No, that is not visible.
Okay. So now, is Krishna's hands visible to you?
No.
So now my question to you is whether Krishna gives or karma gives, how will you know? By
No,
Pratyaksha Praman,
we
can
can't
you tell
understand.
me? By Pratyaksha Praman, can you tell? Is it possible?
No, we can't understand. But I'll give you example of Prabhupada himself. When Jamdagni was killed by sons of Kartikeya Arjun, so Prabhupada says that whether any person, whether is Jamdagni or whether he gives some example, he can't escape karma because Jamdagni asked Lord Parshuram to behead his mother and brothers. That's why he was beheaded. So there he clearly mentions that you can't escape karma. That he doesn't say, although he was such a great sage, doesn't say that it was orchestrated by Krishna and not by karma. And there are other scriptural
Prabhuji,
evidence that Prabhupada might, there's no commentary I know, but here at least I know that Prabhupada says that you can't escape karma.
Prabhuji, just
Yeah.
because someone is a great, it does not necessarily mean he should be a pure devotee. So there are many great sages who are not pure devotees.
No, but compared to us, definitely he will be a pure devotee.
No,
Compared to us.
Prabhuji. No. There is a difference between, Prabhuji, this is very critical understanding. I am requesting you to understand this. There is a difference between, there are two things, Prabhuji. I will write it on the screen. You just try to understand and meditate on this. There are two things. Okay. I will write it in red so that it is visible. There are two things, Prabhuji. One is Shraddha. Another is Swabhava. So Shraddha means faith. Swabhava means our nature, our vasanas, our impressions. Okay. So what you are telling is very correct, Prabhu. I totally agree with you. These sages, they have a very pure swabhava. Okay. They have a very pure swabhava. They have absolutely no material desires. But it is not necessary that their faith is pure. So in our case, we have a very contaminated swabhava. There is no question of even comparing it with the swabhava of the sages. We may have a very dirty swabhava, very lot of lusty desires, anger, greed, so many other such things, cheating propensity. But the point is, we may have a faith which is not contaminated. So what is externally visible is generally only the nature. Swabhava is externally visible, but the Shraddha is not very externally visible. Even if you see, Srila Prabhupada very clearly says in the when he is talking about the conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadev Goswami, in that assembly, so many great sages had assembled there. Prabhupada calls them as sages only, but he very clearly says not everyone was a pure devotee. So therefore, someone may be a very pure Jnana Mishra Bhakta or a Jnana Yogi, or a very pure Yoga Mishra Bhakta or an Ashtanga Yogi. But that does so. Definitely his heart is very clear of any material desires. There is absolutely no material desires. There is no lust, no anger, no greed, no illusion, no pride, nothing. But at the same time, his faith need not be pure devotional faith. So from one perspective, I totally agree with your point that these sages are they purer than us? Million times purer than us, no doubt about it. But is it necessary that their faith is also pure devotional faith? Not necessarily. So therefore, if you see, we are currently discussing Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So where, there are these residents of Tapoloka, Maharloka, who are like such pure personalities, and if they just close their eyes, they immediately go into samadhi and not a single material thought enters their heart. So such people, even but if you see such people, they're almost completely pure swabhava they have, but their faith is not pure. It is not pure devotional. It is they are practitioners of Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. So therefore, I totally agree with your point that Jamadagni or any other sage for that matter, they may be million times their nature or their heart may be purer than us, but it is not necessary that their faith would also be pure. So
Prabhuji, he says father of Lord Parshuram, so I hope that he must be a pure devotee.
no, not necessary, Prabhu. For example, I will give you one example. Kardama Muni was the father of Kapila Dev. Prabhupada very clearly writes in the purport that he was a Karma Mishra Bhakta. So it is not necessary that the father of the Supreme Personality of Godhead needs to be a pure devotee of the Lord. It is not necessary. And Parshuram, in either case, is a Shakti Avesh avatar only. He was not a Vishnu Tattva incarnation. He was a Shakti Avesh avatar only.
So basically, my point is there, na? Like when we take, like myself, with having a contaminated heart and trying to practice, and when we hear that we are beyond karma, we are beyond scriptural injunctions, then anyway.
No, Prabhuji, you are misquoting me, Prabhuji. I am sorry. I did not say we are beyond scriptural injunctions. I am sorry, I did not quote that.
Previously when we had discussed about.
I will clarify, Prabhu, what I told. I did not say we are beyond scriptural injunctions. I said we are governed by Bhakti Shastras. Yeah. So
anyway,
let me just complete the sentence, Prabhu. So the Shastras are written according to the adhikar of the practitioners. If someone has karma adhikar, he is governed by the Dharma Shastras. If someone has Jnana adhikar, he is governed by the Jnana Shastras. If someone has Bhakti adhikar, he is governed by the Bhakti Shastras. No one is beyond the injunctions of the Shastras. But which injunctions of the Shastras govern whom depends on the adhikar. So therefore, I never ever said that devotees are beyond the injunctions of the Shastras. What I only told is which Shastras govern whom. That's all.
Yeah, so what I was saying, that with a contaminated heart, there is, first of all, natural tendency to sin. And then also there is a laziness in doing anything. So if we understand that, okay, we are not bound by law of karma, sin and all these things are for karma kandis and not for us. And also there is a concept that as soon as you
Prabhuji, again, before you continue, I will just add one small point. What I said was the law of karma will not punish, but Krishna will punish. That I told. So with that in mind, you can build your presentation. I said punishment is not given by law of karma, but Krishna gives punishment. I didn't say that there is no
yeah,
punishment.
but you said that it will mainly affect our progress in devotional service.
Bhakti. Correct.
Yeah, but a normal person, like if he sins, he will get suffering in the form of physical, mental, etc. But our
No,
only
that
focusing-
also. No. Prabhuji, bhakti will get affected means how, Prabhuji? Bhakti will get affected means it may get affected through physical problems also. Krishna also gives physical problems. Okay, Prabhu. So basically, you asked what is the proof for
Yeah.
law of karma? I think I should have followed your instruction from the beginning only. Let me directly go to the proof. We will read it and then we will have a discussion. So that way, I think we will have um, some tangible thing to discuss. Otherwise, we will keep going back and forth. Let us have some proofs. If there are some proofs, I will first quote from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where Srila Rupa Goswami quotes ample proofs. And also I will quote from Madhurya Kadambini, where also Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes many verses from the Shastras to establish this point. Let me first go to Madhurya Kadambini only, and then I will come back to the Shastras, which Shastra is for whom. We will discuss that later. And also we did discuss before, now in terms of if you say law of karma will affect devotees, yes, I agree with it. Let us say for theory's sake, let us assume that it is correct. So now the karma, we discussed last time that are you sure you are performing a profession which is according to your varna? So if you are not sure, you may actually be performing sinful activities. Actually you may actually be performing sins, because if your profession does not match your varna, it is actually sinful. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, in general, our profession is not as per nature. But basically, my point is that we have a natural tendency to sin and be irresponsible. And like we are saying that if we feel that we are beyond karma, but means not like non-devotees, then we will naturally start sinning. Like I was saying that our profession in general is sinful, and we have tendency to cheat. Like what last time I was discussing about medical profession. So we, to some extent, we try to be honest, but but in other fields we cheat. Like for example, in ophthalmology we have this thing, cataract packages. So if a person wants a lens of 200 rupees, we'll charge him 5,000. If he wants a lens of 5,000, we should charge him 10,000, but we'll charge him 25,000. So this is cheating. So similarly, we have in bed, if a person goes for a deluxe bed, then everything increases. His OT charge increases, everything increases, his consulting increases. So basically, we are cheating. And if we feel that it's okay, we are devotees and it doesn't matter. And also there is tendency like devotees now, they watch TV and they watch movie and all those things. So if we are not sensitive that everything I'm doing is going to give me karma, then we always have justification. Okay, I'm using it for sake of Krishna, for preaching, for maintaining my Krishna consciousness. So that is my main point.
Yeah, Prabhu, I understand your point. I understand your point. Again, you are not understanding. I never said devotees will not be punished. Just that the medium of punishment or the source of punishment is not karma, but it is Krishna. That's what I said. Anyways, but let us go to the proofs now. So that at least you may be pacified. So okay, this comes in Madhurya Kadambini. Shila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur presents this. So he says that some not only suppose the presence of Namapara due to the absence of symptoms of prema and trace of sinful activity in devotees. Well, okay, anyway, but will okay. So here he says, for the devotee, you may say for which devotee. I am just telling, this is Madhurya Kadambini, and in Madhurya Kadambini, each chapter discusses about each stage of devotional service. The third shower or the third chapter discusses about Anartha Nivritti. So it is talking about a person who has not yet crossed Anarthas. That devotee only is talking about, and in that section, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes this, and he is going to quote some verses also to prove this. So he says, for the devotee, accumulated sins committed due to previous bad habits have no effect, like the bite of a serpent without his poisoned fangs. The sickness, lamentation, and other sufferings undergone by devotees are not the reactions to sins in previous life. It is not due to prarabdha karma, he says. But he does not say devotees will never become sick. He does not say devotees will never undergo lamentation. He does not say devotees will never undergo other sufferings. What he says is, it is not due to prarabdha karma. Okay. So, anyway, we will continue discussing this further. But if people justify na Prabhu that अरे मेरे से कुछ नहीं होगा, मैं तो भक्ति कर रहा हूं ना, मुझे तो कुछ भी नहीं होगा. अगर कोई, if someone justifies like that, you know what will happen to them? This is namno balad yasya hi papa buddhi. This is committing sins on the strength of the holy name. Such a person, by committing this offense, slowly he will lose his bhakti and he will become a non-devotee. So, ऐसा नहीं है. What you think that devotees that they will not be affected by karma? In fact, devotees should be all the more careful about not committing any forbidden activity. And even if they may commit, actually, if they justify, then very quickly they will lose their bhakti only. So it is not true. If someone misunderstands this principle, then they are making a fool of themselves. So you don't have to worry that devotees will not get any punishment. Devotees will become sick. Devotees will get lamentation. Devotees will get other suffering. No one is denying that. Krishna does not deny that at all. So the Lord has said, Nirdhanatva Maharogo Mad Anugraha Lakshanam. He says, the awesome affliction known as poverty is in fact a sign of mercy. So he says, sometimes I show my mercy by giving suffering to others, by giving suffering to devotees, Krishna says. And then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes this verse, Yasyaham anugrinami harisheta dhanam shanaihi tato adhanam tyajantyasya swajana dukkha dukkitam. He says, if I especially favor someone here refers to the devotee actually. Okay, because that is the context of the discussion in Bhagavatam. I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. In this way, he suffers one distress after another. So Krishna is not telling that devotees will not suffer distress. He does indicate that they do suffer distress. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments here. A man suffers misery because of loss of wealth. He suffers further because of rejection by his relatives because he is poor. This suffering being given by the Lord is not the result of karma. This is very direct statement by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur here. Even the happiness given to the Lord's devotees is not the result of karma, but rather an unrequested result of bhakti. Okay, so it is an unrequested result of bhakti. The happiness and distress which appear to be prarabdha karma. आपने जो सही बोला कि प्रभु जी ये तो प्रत्यक्ष प्रमाण में दिख रहा है कि जो गलत चीज करते हैं डिवोटीज भी सफर करते हैं, नॉन सफर करते हैं। तो ये जो आपने बोला एकदम सही है। वही विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर भी बोल रहे हैं कि प्रत्यक्ष प्रमाण में एक ही दिखता है, हाँ, एकदम एक ही दिखता है। द हैप्पीनेस एंड डिस्ट्रेस विच अपीयर टू बी प्रारब्ध कर्मा आर गिवन बाय द लॉर्ड हिमसेल्फ। So he is not telling devotees को डिस्ट्रेस मिलेगा ही नहीं, डिवोटीज को हैप्पीनेस ही हैप्पीनेस मिलेगा, कुछ भी करें तो ऐसे तो। दिस इज नॉट व्हाट ही इज टेलिंग। Devotees will also suffer if they make mistakes. There is no question of escaping suffering. But let us understand a little further. The Shrutis also say, Bhavad Utta Shubha Ashubhayoho. This is from 10th canto Bhagavatam, the prayers of the Vedas personified. So Bhavad Utta Shubha Ashubhayoho, मतलब जो शुभ और अशुभ चीज है आपके द्वारा जो आता है वो शुभ और अशुभ चीज, like that he says. So now the question is, agar if you say that the Supreme Lord gives suffering to his devotees, then the question arises, how can the Lord, who is very affectionate to his devotee, how can that Lord make the devotee suffer? ये प्रश्न उठता है। अगर भगवान भक्तवत्सल है तो अपने ही भक्तों को देते हैं। Why does he give? So he says, the father, even though affectionate to his sons, gives them the austerity of studying by taking away their sources of enjoyment. करते हैं, you know. So sometimes when the son becomes very distracted with playing video games or something like that, the father may take away those video games from him. And also the father knows that the action is a sign of his affection. So even though the son may not like it, but the father knows that it is a sign of his affection, though the son does not appreciate it at that time. So now ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है। ठीक है, तो समझो कि भगवान ही सफरिंग देते हैं भक्तों को, बट द एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ हैप्पीनेस एंड सफरिंग जो कर्मा से जो आता है, जो हैप्पीनेस और सफरिंग नॉन डिवोटीज को, और जो भगवान से आता है बोल के आप तो बोल रहे हैं, दोनों तो एक ही दिखता है। भक्तों को भी कैटरैक्ट होता है, नॉन डिवोटीज को भी कैटरैक्ट होता है। भक्तों को भी ग्लूकोमा होता है, नॉन डिवोटीज को भी ग्लूकोमा होता है। भक्तों को भी रेटिनल डिटैचमेंट होता है और नॉन डिवोटीज को भी रेटिनल डिटैचमेंट होता है। और ये डिवोटी नॉन डिवोटी दोनों डॉक्टर के पास ही आते हैं, ऑप्थेल्मोलॉजिस्ट के पास ही आते हैं और दवा ट्रीटमेंट तो लेते ही हैं। तो आप ऐसे बोल सकते हैं कि डिवोटी का सफरिंग कर्मा से आ रहा है और डिवोटी का सफरिंग कृष्णा से आ रहा है और नॉन डिवोटी का सफरिंग कर्मा से आ रहा है, कैसे बोल सकते हैं? तो I asked the devotee had I don't know why, I mean, of course cataract happens due to old age. I don't think there is a reason that you can ascribe for it. I don't know about it, but at least retinal detachment or power strong myopia or something comes due to some improper maybe reading practice or too much sitting in front of the screen and things like that. So डिवोटी को भी अफेक्ट होता है, नॉन डिवोटी को भी अफेक्ट होता है। आप ऐसे कैसे बोल सकते हैं कि कर्मा डिवोटी को नहीं करता? ओके, सो द सेम पॉइंट इज रेज्ड हियर बाय श्री विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर, दैट देखो जो हैप्पीनेस और डिस्ट्रेस जो डिवोटी को आता है और नॉन डिवोटी को आता है, दोनों एक ही दिखता है। तो आप ऐसे कैसे बोल सकते हैं कि डिवोटी का जो सफरिंग है कर्म से नहीं है? सो Um, uh, so he says, even though experiencing happiness or suffering arising from karma, अब इसका मैं directly end में जाता हूं because this is a long discussion. So he says there are three qualities of karmic suffering. Karmic suffering का तीन लक्षण है. क्या है वो? Even though experience of happiness and distress destroys the karma, but the desire to perform that karma or action is not gone. The desire to perform that action is not gone. And that desire to perform that action leads to more and more actions, which lead to further happiness and further distress, which is due to karma. Okay. And the distress many times can even be extreme hellish suffering. बहुत ही, if it is a very serious sinful activity, they may even go to hell and suffer. But the suffering induced by the Lord himself, however, is by the Lord's desire. Lord's desire क्या है? To bring the jiva closer to his feet. तो sometimes ऐसा होता है प्रभु कि कर्म के अनुसार वो पर्टिकुलर पाप कार्य के लिए उसको, if he has to get malaria, sometimes Krishna may give him cancer also. Sometimes Krishna may give him terminal cancer also. Sometimes the punishment of Krishna can be much more severe than law of karma. But what is the purpose of Krishna giving punishment? So that the devotee understands his mistake, but most importantly, the devotee takes shelter of his lotus feet. That is the most important purpose. But karma, the law of karma does not have any such kind of this thing. Law of karma is very straightforward. Punishment, galti kiya, punishment hai. Whether that punishment will take that person closer to Krishna's feet or not, law of karma is not bothered. But Krishna कैसे हैं? अरे ये जो devotee है ना, he has told me, he has decided that he will surrender to me. But ये जो भौतिक इच्छाओं के वजह से he is getting distracted. तो इसको मैं punishment देता हूं, पर ऐसा punishment दूंगा जिससे वो मेरा lotus feet के पास भाग के आ जाएगा. With that in mind, Krishna gives punishment. Not that Krishna does not give punishment. So the desire of Krishna is the seed of that punishment. And that punishment lasts only as long as necessary for the Lord's purpose and no longer. The Lord's purpose क्या है? To bring the jiva closer to his feet. तब तक ही वो punishment रहेगा. उसके बाद खींचेंगे नहीं, भगवान खींचेंगे नहीं. So, and such people, devotees will never go to hell. This is ये जो वर्ष है, ये यमराज यमदूतों को बोल रहे हैं भागवतम में, डायरेक्ट वर्स, because we saw suffering due to karma can take one to hell also, but devotees will never go to hell. Okay, unless they give up their devotional service completely due to offenses. उनको suffering बहुत आएगा, but वो hell तक जाने का जरूरत नहीं है. So ये जो अजामिल का एपिसोड से, there are so many verses. एक वर्स उसमें कोट करते हैं शिला विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर, जो यमराज खुद यमदूतों को बोलते हैं कौन सा व्यक्तियों को आपको हेल में लेके आना चाहिए और किसको हेल में लेके नहीं आना चाहिए. वो बोलते हैं कि जिह्वा न भक्ति भगवत गुण नाम देयम, जिनका जिह्वा से भगवान का गुणगान कभी भी नहीं हुआ. चेतश्चन स्मरति न चरणारविंदम, जिनका चित्त भगवान का चरणारविंद का ध्यान एक भी क्षण को किया नहीं. कृष्णाय नो नमति यत् शिर एकदापि, और जिनका सिर भगवान का नमन कभी किया ही नहीं, उनको ही तान आनयद्वम असतो अकृत विष्णु कृत्यान, जिन्होंने थोड़ा भी भक्ति किया नहीं, उनको आप नरक में लेके आ सकते हैं. जिन्होंने थोड़ा भी भक्ति किया है, उनको आप नरक में लेके नहीं आ सकते. वेरी क्लियर. दिस इज यमराज स्पीकिंग टू यमदूतास. So from this it is understood that for the devotee suffering, who is suffering because of the Lord, there is no fall to hell. Because of the affection of the Lord for his devotee, the Lord does not give them extreme suffering, but unko seek dete hain. He gives them lessons by which devotees understand their mistake and come running back to the lotus feet of Krishna. वो करते हो, that kind of punishment Krishna definitely gives. So the suffering induced by the Lord himself is by his desire alone and not by the jiva's desire. That suffering lasts only as long as necessary for the Lord's purpose and no longer. Because of the affection of the Lord for his devotee, the Lord does not give them extreme suffering. So these are the three qualities of suffering given by the Lord. हमने वही तीन qualities of suffering given by karma we saw. So these are the three qualities of suffering given directly by the Lord. So he says the suffering, देखो again and again he says suffering. Suffering भक्तों के लिए नहीं है बोल के कभी भी कोई भी आचार्यों ने दिया नहीं, कोई भी शास्त्रों ने दिया नहीं. So he says the suffering arising from karma and the Lord are like the suffering arising from receiving a beating from an enemy and from one's own mother. Sometimes enemy का थप्पड़ से भी ज्यादा माता पिता का थप्पड़ और कभी और भी जोर हो सकता है, जोर से गिरता है. But by that slap from the father or mother, the person gets benefited. So he says one is like poison and the other is like nectar. So here there is no question of a devotee being not responsible for his actions. A devotee is definitely responsible for his actions. There is no doubt about it. But the only point is that who punishes him? Punishment किससे मिलता है? बस उतना ही है. And then later he describes, well, can't the Lord fulfill his purpose without giving suffering to his devotees? And so on. So many इसका बहुत सारा गुड़ तत्व को explain करते हैं विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर. But then, so finally he says, the truth is that the Supreme Lord, the greatest benefactor of his devotees, purposely inflicts suffering on his devotees just to increase their humility and yearning for him. कभी भी ऐसा लिया नहीं कि devotees suffering नहीं करेंगे. Thus, the devotees' sufferings are not because of fruitive reactions, nor are they reactions of prarabdha sins. Anyway, there are भीष्म देव और युधिष्ठिर महाराज का जो संवाद है भागवतम में, उससे भी ये this explanation is very clear. अगर if you are not satisfied, we will go through this section also. ऐसा बहुत सारा sections है. We can keep on going through all these sections. But in this section also very clearly Bhishma Dev says that नहीं बाबा, आपका जो suffering है वो कर्म के अनुसार नहीं है. It is not due to karma. He very clearly says that it is given by Krishna. But ऐसा नहीं कि suffering नहीं है and a devotee is not responsible. Rather, a devotee becomes humble. A devotee who becomes proud, thinking that he is not, he is beyond karma, is a foolish devotee actually. Rather, he understands that I am displeasing Krishna and Krishna will give me suffering. He understands that and he tries to conduct himself properly. So, anyways, Loknath Prabhu, please go ahead.
Yeah, 2 points were there. One point is that like the originally the basic purpose of creating the material world was also same, that all souls go back to him. So so that is the general plan. So a different plan may not be needed for devotees, because anyway the reason why all these types of miseries has been created so that people surrender to the Lord, and they are also as much children of Krishna as we are. That was one point. And second was regarding Bhishma Pitama, like he suffered so much in his life. We know that initially he had stolen cow of this thing, Vasisht Muni, and so he was cursed. So he was cursed that whatever he will have no enjoyment in this life, etc. And then he had to be on the bed of arrow. So I have heard explanation. I don't remember exactly from where, that because he allowed the Chir Haran, so the reaction he get because of that, he had to suffer so much. And because he is a devotee, Lord Krishna protected his consciousness. He remained pure in consciousness, but because he committed sin, so he had to suffer. And there are other examples also, like Lord King Maharaj Dashrath being cursed by the parents of Shravan Kumar, etc. So there are so many examples in scriptures where, as per we perceive, that they did some karma and they got a reaction. Now that Lord Krishna is giving, that is maybe different, but this is how general
नहीं,
impression is there.
पर अभी आपने प्रभु जी, you
Yeah.
have quoted प्रत्यक्ष प्रमाण प्रभु जी, आपने प्रत्यक्ष प्रमाण किया है, शब्द प्रमाण चाहिए ना, मतलब there must be an explanation of an activity ना bro. So अभी
So if you think that, say that it is Dharma Shastra, this thing Mahabharata, but in Mahabharata it is explained about Bhishma, I don't know, but when they go to Himalaya, then they start falling. So everyone's karma has been described, like when Arjuna falls, then it is described that he had promised that he will finish the Mahabharata war in 2 days or something, and he couldn't finish. That's why he got the karma. Then Draupadi, because he would favor Arjuna more than other Pandavas, he got the karma. Bhimsen used to eat more than others, that's why he got the karma. Nakul Sahadev, they were proud of their beauty and this thing, their talent. So Mahabharata gives directly karma, but then the other Krishna point of view, that I don't know.
वही बोल रहा हूँ ना प्रभु जी. I told you these Pandavas and other such kings, they have a dual portfolio. They have दो प्रकार का portfolio है. एक है लोक संग्रहम, to set the right example for people under them. So Mahabharat presents their activities on which they perform on the stage to set the right example for others. भागवतम में एक श्लोक आप दिखाइए वैसा कि इनका ऐसा ऐसा है, एक कर्म के वजह से हुआ बोल के, भागवतम के अनुसार आप दिखाइए एक show me one shloka where for a particular devotee it is mentioned that his suffering was due to was due to his karma. कुछ है क्या?
Bhagavatam doesn't comment only on this thing, like Bhishma Dev suffering, etc. It takes only devotional aspect, that as per my understanding.
Yeah,
because
it clearly, Prabhuji, I will tell you. Bhishma is a Nitya Siddha, first thing. Okay. And Bhishma is a Nitya Siddha, and there was a particular Vasu who stole the Kamadhenu of which Muni, Prabhu? Agastya Muni? Which
Vasisht Muni. He was named Dew.
Yeah. So our Acharyas explain, Srila Prabhupada also, that when sometimes the Nitya Siddhas descend, these sometimes Devatas, sometimes these kind of Vasuks who are also like some inferior type of Devatas, sometimes they enter into the bodies of Nitya Siddhas and perform pastimes. Okay. So in Bhishma Dev, for example, this is very common. This is very, very common. Uddhava also, one of the Vasu, who was he entered into the body of Nitya Siddha Uddhava. And similarly, Bhishma Dev also, in his body, there was a Vasu. So Bhishma Dev, so it was that Vasu who performed that activity. So these kind of explanations that you are giving, I am not telling it is not Shastrik. It is very much Shastrik. You are quoting Shastras, and I appreciate that. But ये जो शास्त्र है प्रभु जी, ये these are particularly meant for people who are on the platform of karma. So for them, it is this kind of shastras are meant for. So no one. So for them, the lesson is no one can escape karma. That is the lesson for them. But such kind of explanations you will not find in Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam is primarily meant for devotees. So ये जो instructions है ना प्रभु जी, अलग अलग लोगों का अलग अलग instructions है. So Bhagavatam does not say that Bhishmadev did not lie down on the bed of arrows, but then Bhagavatam glorifies Bhishmadev for his devotion towards Krishna. And Bhakti Rasam Sindhu very clearly describes जो भाव और प्रेम का स्तर पे जो devotees रहते हैं, you know how it is certainly not possible that such people, I mean, even if you say that sadhakas ke liye to karma, karma se, they cannot escape, then definitely at least those people who are Nitya Siddhas, how they can suffer due to karma? So it is impossible actually. That is exactly the same Bhishmadev who is lying down on the bed of arrows. He is teaching Yudhishthir Maharaj. And after that you are telling, so ये जो Bhishmadev बोलते हैं कि आपका जो suffering है कर्म के अनुसार नहीं है. And then definitely I am not telling Mahabharat thus say that when the Pandavas are climbing the Himalayas, they fell down due to different karmas, because that is meant for teaching those who have karma nishta. तो वो वैसे ही बोलेगा. There is no doubt about it. I totally agree with that. I am not telling that those statements are false. I am just telling it is meant for whom. That's all. The same Bhishmadev is telling that the Yudhishthir Maharaj, that for you Pandavas, your suffering or happiness is not due to karma. This is very clearly mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, जो कर्माद्री है, that is how he has to understand that मैं कुछ भी गलत चीज करूंगा तो उसका कर्म के अनुसार, धर्म शास्त्रों के अनुसार मुझे punishment मिलेगा. Whereas a devotee has to understand that Krishna's protection is there, but if I try to exploit Krishna's protection, Krishna's punishment is also there. So therefore it's not that no one can escape suffering. We are not telling that anyone can escape suffering, but the only thing is who will give that suffering. That is the only point.
Regarding my first question, first point that anyway the whole material world has been created for that purpose only, that everyone surrendered to the Lord and everyone is a child of Krishna anyway. So
Correct.
Is there requirement of a separate system for devotees?
Prabhuji, why do you think your intelligence and Krishna's intelligence is on the same level?
No, I'm not doubting Krishna's intelligence, but
No,
I'm doubting the explanation that there is
Acharya sir giving
that there is a separate system for the devotees.
नहीं, मैं आपको एक चीज पूछता हूँ. तो ये जो अभी अलग अलग पीपल को अलग अलग अधिकार है ना प्रभु जी. See, everyone is a child of Krishna. Let me ask you one thing, Loknath Prabhu. If a father is there, if a father has a healthy child and he has a physically retarded child and he has a mentally retarded child, if all three children are the father's children, will the system of reward and punishment of the father to his three children be the same?
No.
Why, Prabhu? All three are the father's children only, na? Why he should have a different system of reward and punishment for the three children?
No, but here the example.
You please answer my question, Prabhuji. Why there should be a different system of reward and punishment for the three children?
But what I will.
No, Prabhuji, you just answer my question.
I'm sorry, but I don't feel the example is appropriate. I will give an example of a obedient child and a disobedient child, and the father being impartial to them. Like if we'll expect that suppose a prime minister is there or a king is there, even we'll expect that he treats his son, if he commits crime, the same as he treats any ordinary citizen. Then we'll appreciate that yes, he is a very good king.
Okay, I don't understand what, Prabhu.
No, we will suppose there is a king, and his
Prabhu, it is not a question of obedience and disobedience. It is a question of people through their various kinds of experiences in their lives, they develop different adhikar. जो अलग अलग अधिकार है उसके अनुसार systems रहता है. So this is a fact and this is very clearly given in scriptures. Now, if you cannot understand why there should be a different system, that is okay, because सब लोगों को सब कुछ समझ में तो थोड़ी नहीं आएगा ना प्रभु जी. Everyone cannot understand everything because all our intelligence is actually limited. So we all cannot understand every system, but it is a fact. That is what Krishna clearly says, na Prabhuji. Lokesmin dvivida nishta pura prokta mayanaga jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. So he clearly says that अरे दो प्रकार का अधिकार का लोग है, एक कर्माधिकारी है, एक ज्ञान अधिकारी है. कर्माधिकारी का सिस्टम अलग है, ज्ञान अधिकारी का अलग है. कर्माधिकारी को इंस्ट्रक्शंस अलग है, ज्ञान अधिकारी को इंस्ट्रक्शंस अलग है. तभी इसमें प्रॉब्लम क्या है?
No, but it doesn't. There he talks about nishtha, but doesn't talk about law of karma. That there are different laws of karma.
अभी उसका नेक्स्ट वर्स ही पढ़ता हूँ प्रभु जी आपके लिए. Just wait, I am just going to read the verse where Krishna says, while Krishna says, कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्म फल हेतुर्भुर्माते संगोस्त्व कर्मणि. So he says that you have to perform karma, O Arjuna. And then in the 17th verse he says, yastu atmaratireva syad atmatriptascha manava atmanyeva hi santushtas tasya karyam na vidyat. That human, when he has developed attraction to Atma, he is satisfied in the Atma and completely satisfied with Atma alone. He has nothing to do in regarding to fulfill his desires. Tasya karyam na vidyate. Unko kuch karya karne ka jarurat nahi hai. So he never performs actions out of desires. And naiva tasya kriteyanartho na kriteyaneha kaschana nachasya sarvabhuteshu kaschid arthavapashraya. He does not gain anything by performance of action. Action here refers to karma, nishka, his varnashrama duties. Na kriteyaneha kaschana. He does not lose anything by not performing action. This is Krishna telling, bro. This is Krishna telling. A ज्ञान योगी वर्णाश्रम कर्म करने से कुछ गेन नहीं करता है और वर्णाश्रम कर्म ना करने से कुछ लूज नहीं करता है. This is Krishna directly telling to Arjuna about a ज्ञान योगी. कर्म योगी को क्या बोलते हैं? If you do not perform karma, you will get sin. If you perform karma, you will get piety. ये भेद क्यों?
No, so I same point I am saying that when we suppose either is a Gyan Yogi or Bhakti Yogi, when we reach at this stage where we have no desire when we are doing akam will not create reaction. But when we are doing karma, then that should create reaction. That is the same thing I am saying, because we are now filled with desires. So we can't.
ठीक है प्रभु जी, मैं एक चीज पूछता हूँ आपको. ज्ञान योगी क्यों कर्म करने का जरूरत नहीं है? वो एक चीज बताइए मुझे. Why does a Jnana Yogi not have to perform karma?
No, in my understanding, this is not talking about Jnana Yogi. He is saying when a person reaches a stage where he has no desire to perform action, then he doesn't get any reaction. That is what he doesn't discriminate that this is Jnana Yogi who has reached this stage. Means Jnana is an indispensable part of any this reaction. Even Bhakti devotee are supposed to have Jnana. So when he has realized that he is a soul and he is not his body, and when he has maybe Brahma stage, that is when he is beyond karma. That is what I understand. That is my point of view. Yeah.
प्रभु जी एक चीज ना, मैं अभी because there are so many devotees involved here, मैं actually ना प्रभु जी, let me ask you something. आप if you get some scriptural evidence with some commentary by the acharyas and present, Prabhu. Otherwise, there is this discussion will keep on going because आपको क्या लगता है, आपको क्या लगता है, मुझे लगता है, मुझे लगता है,
No,
इसमें
but
there is
this shloka that you are quoting, so isn't Lord Krishna talking same thing that when a person is free from all desires, then he is beyond karma? Isn't that what he's saying?
Prabhuji, true. This is for those who are ज्ञान yogis, but even for bhakti yogis, Prabhuji. Okay, तो एक मिनट, मैं आपको एक और चीज अभी दिखाता हूँ. Let me forget it directly. Let me. ठीक है प्रभु जी, एक चीज आप बताइए, व्हाट इज द पर्पस ऑफ कर्मा? वर्णाश्रम कर्म का पर्पस क्या है प्रभु जी, वो बता सकते हैं आप?
Purpose of karma is self gratification.
हाँ,
Self gratification, which is sanctioned in the scriptures.
नहीं, वही वर्णाश्रम कर्म करने का मतलब क्या है? हाउ डज इट हेल्प अ पर्सन हु इज परफॉर्मिंग इट?
If a person performs, a person who is attached and he is following the scriptures gradually, he'll perform karma to get enjoyment, and gradually
And
by doing that he'll get detached.
प्यूरिफिकेशन ना?
Yeah. In long term,
Yeah.
there will be purification. Yeah.
प्यूरिफिकेशन. मैं आपको एक चीज पूछता हूँ, बाई भक्ति करने से जो अनर्थ निवृत्ति बोलते हैं ना, अनर्थ निवृत्ति,
Yeah.
वो अनर्थ निवृत्ति किससे होता है प्रभु जी?
From sadhana, श्रवण
विच
कीर्तन
साधना
etc.
प्रभु? हाँ, तो वो प्यूरिफिकेशन है कि नहीं है?
Yes.
तो एक through karma you get purification, for duties also there is a system of purification na prabhu? So
Yes.
doesn't
What
bhakti
I'm saying
purify?
that if by any means, when we reach that stage, when we are beyond material desires, then we get free from karma. But either we are performing jnana yoga or karma yoga or bhakti. But when we still have material desires, then how do we get free from? How we say that we are free from karma? Because what binds us to this world
प्रभु
is
जी,
not the karma, but the intention by which we are and the attachment by
नहीं प्रभु
which
जी,
we are
no no
performing.
no
Yeah.
no 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 no. Okay, anyway, तो अभी we have another 5 minutes and I have to leave, I have to catch a train, but ये just रूप गोस्वामी का भक्ति रसामृत सिंधु से बता रहा हूँ. ये जो वैदी साधना भक्ति का सेक्शन में श्रील रूप गोस्वामी लिखते हैं कि what are the duties expected of a qualified practitioner of वैदी साधना भक्ति. ये वैदी साधना भक्ति का सेक्शन ही है, तो आप भक्ति रसाम सिंधु लेके पढ़ सकते हैं इसको. ओके, तो ये भाव भक्ति या प्रेम भक्ति के बारे में नहीं बता रहे हैं. सो ही सेज, he quotes this. He says, अननुष्ठानतो दोषो भक्ति अंगानां प्रजायते न कर्मणाम अकरणात् एष भक्ति अधिकारिणाम निषिद्ध आचरतो दैवात् प्रायश्चित्तं तु न उचितम् इति वैष्णव शास्त्राणां रहस्यं तद्विदां मतम्. He says, एष भक्ति अधिकारिणाम. तो and before this he says भक्ति अधिकारी कौन है? तो he says that भक्ति क्रियाओं के प्रति जिसको श्रद्धा है, one who has faith towards the limbs of devotional service, he is qualified for bhakti, he says. So the person qualified for bhakti, doshah prajayate, he is at fault for failing to perform all the important angas of bhakti, but he is not at fault for failing to perform the duties of varna and ashrama. Na karmanam akaranam. Daivat, if by chance, nishiddha acharato, he happens to commit some sinful activity, प्रायश्चित्तम तो न उचितम, there is no atonement prescribed for him. No atonement means जो कर्मकांडीय atonement है, जो अलग अलग पापों के लिए अलग अलग ये है, मतलब there is अलग अलग काल सर्प दोष है या जो भी है, whatever, that is not, ये भक्तों के लिए उचित नहीं है. इति वैष्णव शास्त्राणां रहस्यं तद्विदां मतम. This is the opinion of those who know the secret of Vaishnava scriptures, he says. So, and then there is, for the next 100 slides, he gives proofs for this from शास्त्रस. मैं एक काम करता हूँ प्रभु जी, इसका मेरा वीडियोस है along with the notes. I will send it to you. इसका पूरा proofs आप एक बार सुन लीजिए. Then we can discuss about it further.
Okay, Prabhu. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I am sorry. I honestly wanted to move forward and cover more verses, but somehow, of course, this discussion was definitely very essential, I feel, because this doubt, I'm very glad that Loknath Prabhu brought these doubts, because I'm sure many devotees might have this doubt. But it is very critical to understand this. It is very critical to understand this, because if we do not understand, because this will challenge our faith, we have to ask these questions. So in order to find out where our faith is, whether do we even have pure devotional faith or not, how much faith do we have in the words of our acharyas? These are things which we need to know. And I'm glad that these kind of discussions, of course, that does not mean we keep on having these kind of discussions. Maybe we can have a separate forum for this. But definitely this is very critical to have these discussions. Okay, so I will pause here and we will continue this discussion next week. I am really sorry. Next week, definitely we will, maybe I will sit with Loknath Prabhu sometime during the week and we will continue this discussion. In the meantime, please remind me, I will send him the materials so that he can hear and we will discuss this further. So thank you very much. And next week, I promise that we will proceed on the verses. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.